Hey folks, welcome back. Another CloudFormation Wednesday here now instead of CloudFormation Tuesdays. I was actually just in the process of doing some quick cleanup here. I was running a course today, so just bear with me a sec. Yeah, I got a bunch of things that are sticking around here, so I just want to clean these up first. Let's just get rid of some of these rules. I'm also trying a new streaming option today, so we'll see how that works out. Okay, we've got a security group associated. Oh, it's probably this one. I figured we get these cleaned out of here just to stop any confusion. Okay, that's that. Not sure what's here. Oh, okay. I created a network interface that I need to get rid of. So let's do that. And I think that means we should be able to get rid of the rest of our security groups here. And we got this one left over. Sorry, I wanted to get this done before, but just ran out of time. And this should actually be from CloudFormation. So we'll blow this up. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, I don't see the VPC in here. All right, well, that's probably good enough. So what I wanted to do today was create a multi-AZ VPC. And the idea here is that you could use this as a foundation for building out, well, highly available, fault-tolerant, scalable solutions on AWS, right? So I thought we would build the template from scratch and just kind of go through all the various components, okay? So let's see here. I created our standard CI script. I figured I'd done ahead of time, and I've got our simple validation and at least the skeleton of what we can use to deploy our VPC. I've created my git ignore file, so let's create a VPC YAML file. And you know, one thing that I always forget is there's a template version here, so let me just grab that quickly. It's not required, but I like to add it. Yeah, it's just this line here, and then we can put a description in. And then just like we've done before, we're going to say parameters as a placeholder, resources as a placeholder, and then we know we're going to have several outputs here. If we get rid of everything in here, actually, I'll just do this. I want to keep one of our little task items. Let's forget the format of that, so I'm going to leave that one there. So let's decide what it is we're going to do. The first thing we need to do is create a VPC. and we'll make it a large VPC. So we'll do 10.98.00/16. Okay. So 65,000 IP addresses. And then we want to subdivide this into, what we're going to do is we're going to create 6 subnets. So our first subnet will be a public subnet. And what do we want to use for this? Actually, let's lay all this out first. And we're going to create, just to demonstrate how this works, a protected subnet. So what we'll put in the protected subnet, or what the protected subnet would be used for, is if you wanted to deploy resources into the VPC, but you wanted to make sure that those resources weren't available, couldn't route traffic outside of the VPC. Okay. You might want to put like a database in here as an example, something like that. So these are all of our subnets that we want to create. Let me just, I want to kind of structure the VPC. So I just need a subnet calculator. So give me a sec. All right, so let's have a look at our subnet calculator here. So we're going to do, what did I say, 10.98.00. And what I'm thinking right away is we want to leave ourselves space for future use, because one of the things that I often see people run into is they create small networks and they run out of space, and then they don't leave themselves any space for future growth. So even though we're going to create a VPC across 2 availability zones, I'm actually going to subdivide the large /16 into 4 smaller segments. Okay. And the reason I want to do that is then I'm going to use each one of those segments, right, whatever they end up being. Let's actually do that. So I'm going to say divide, divide, and divide. So here are my 4 segments, all /18. So that means I've got 16,000 IP addresses. And my idea here is that we use each of these segments. So that becomes the network segment we'll use for our first AZ. This will be the network segment we use in our second AZ. We'll mark AZ3 here, even though we're not going to use it. That'll be that one. And then we're just going to mark some space as reserved. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm just adding to our little list here. So see what I've done? I've taken that /16 and I've divided it into 4 /18s and then said basically AZ1, AZ2, AZ3, and reserved. And for today, we're just going to use AZ1 and AZ2. So now I'm thinking if we wanted to maybe just reorganize the way this is, well, laid out, we could do something like this. Oops, that's not going to work. Clean it all. What did I do wrong here? Public. Okay, maybe I'll just type this. I don't know what I'm done. Ah, it's going nuts on me. So we've got public 1, public 2, so this is kind of what I'm thinking. And that means for here, we're going to say AZ1. There we go. Know that we're going to use that segment for that AZ. Okay. And then if we kind of do the same thing here, go like that. So now what I want to do is I want to subdivide these, and we're going to take the same approach. We're going to basically say reserved. So we'll leave a little bit of space in each of our segments. Right? And this just gives us some flexibility later on. So let's map all these out and see what we end up with. If I go back to the visual calculator, what I want to do is I just want to start with 9818, and I'm just going to subdivide this a bunch of times. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this /17 here as our reserved segment. So that'll leave us with a lot of IPs that we could use at some point in the future if we needed to. And then what I'll do is I'll start subdividing this one a little more, because I need public one, private one, and what did I say? Protected one. So we can go like that. Okay. And what I want to do is, I know these are still large subnets, and you could break this down even more. Do we want to do that? Let's go back here for a second. We said that's reserved. If we go like this, yeah, it's still, what I'm trying to do is I like to create small public subnets and larger private subnets. I think for today we won't get too tied down to this, but we'll create our public subnet as /19. We'll create this /18 as our private subnet, and then we'll use this other /19 as our protected subnet, and that leaves another /17 for future use. So if we do the same thing here for our other AZ, oops, we subdivide it, so we kept this. What did I do wrong here? $18. Hold on, I've messed up my math somewhere here. Go back to our original guy. So that's our /18. We've got 4 /18s, 3 that we're going to sort of mark for use, and 1 reserved. And then what I said was I would subdivide this, and then the, oh, I just wrote it down wrong. Okay, got it. So yeah, the 19, one of the 19s becomes our reserved. We'll use this as the reserved, and then I go back up here and do this. Now I want to subdivide the 19. Okay. So we're going to create, yeah, I think I got this straightened out now. Yeah, this makes more sense. Okay, so our public one is a /21. Our protected one is a /21, and then our private is a /20. Okay, so let me see if I can make this work on the other side now, and then we can actually get to writing some code. So we start with a /18, and I break that into 2 19s, and we mark the second 19 as reserved. Okay. And then I take 6419, and I subdivide this. So this becomes, whoops, this becomes public 2. Our private zone is larger, so it's the /20. And then the protected zone will be also a /21. So if I've got all this math right, here's what we end up with. Okay. So I just kind of have a look at this. We've reserved a /16, right? And then we've subdivided that /16 4 ways to cover 3 AZs if we wanted to, and left a /18 as reserved. Each of these then gets subdivided again, and we leave the large segment /19 as reserved, and then we break down the other 19 into 20s and 21s. And we're going to use the 21s as the smaller subnets. So we want small public and protected subnets and larger private subnets. So that means we have 4,096 addresses here, and we have, what's the math on that, 2,046 addresses in each of the 21s, and then we do the same thing on this side. Okay, so now that we've got our math sort of done, let's build this out. Let me grab the documentation for this. And let's start building. So we're going to say VPC 0. Okay. And then we're going to say CIDR block. And we're just going to refer to VPC CIDR block. So if you've seen this before, you know we're going to go down the parameter path. So we'll say VPC CIDR block. Maybe? Wow. Look at the keyboard. There we go. Type string. Okay, so we'll pass that in as a parameter. We want to enable DNS hostnames. So we'll set that to true. And we want to enable DNS support. That's true. I don't know what I did here. Enable DNS host names. I don't know what I was typing. So this way we've got host names and DNS available in our VPC. Okay, so that's always handy, right? What else do we want to do here? Instance tenancy. We want that just to be the default, which is shared. We don't have IPAM. We don't have, what's net mask length? Oh, okay, that's related again to the IP address manager pool, which we're not going to use. Although that might be an interesting segment for later on. I'll show you what I'm looking at. So you can see here, I'm going through, this is our VPC, what's the word I'm looking for here? This is our VPC definition, right? And Amazon recently introduced IP address management. So that's what this is. This is a couple new attributes. So you've got an IPAM pool ID and then an IPAM net mask length. And we're not going to do that, but you can see down here what they expect if you want to add those. It'd be interesting to look at the Amazon IPAM tool later on and see what we could do with it. I remember when it came out, I thought it was kind of expensive. Interesting idea. Let's see. So this is back in 2021. I think this was announced at reInvent. So it provides you with IP address management so that you can understand how you're using your IP addresses across your entire environment. It's integrated, looks like here, unified operational view, and enables you to manage IP across regions and accounts using your resource manager and AWS organizations. That's interesting. Let's have a look here at VPC pricing. And we go to IPAM. Okay, so how's this work? You pay an hourly rate for each active IP that you manage using the IPAM address manager. An active IP is defined as an IP address assigned to a resource such as an EC2 instance or an Elastic Network interface. You only need to create a single IPAM for your organization, since IPAM manages all of the addresses across your organization and region. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So if you no longer wish to be charged for IPAM, simply delete IPAM using the management console. All right, so if we change this to Canada, what are we getting charged? Oh, okay. Hourly price per active IP address managed by IPAM. It's a very small number. So here you go. Let's assume you've assigned a /16 to your VPC, but you're using 5,000 IPs. Those 5,000 addresses are active for 30 days, 24 hours a day. So yeah, if you had 5,000 IPs, you're spending about $1,000 a month. It might be in a larger environment, it's probably worth having something like that. But Yeah, you know what? That might be an interesting thing to do in the future. Let's have another look here. Go back over here. So there's IPAM. I just wonder what, usually if they refer to it here, I wonder if it's supported. Here we go, IPAM pool. Let's have a look at this. I know we're diverting off course here, but let's have a look. Okay, so it's a pool, a collection of contiguous IP addresses that you want to manage. So we can create the pool. What else do we have? It's a scope. Scope is the highest level container with an IPAM. An IPAM contains 2 default scopes. Each scope represents the IP space for a single network. Private scope is intended for all private IPs, and the public scope is intended for all public IPs. Okay, so I'm assuming then here, if we looked at this, we create the IPAM pool, which then has 2 default scopes, private and public. And then within that, it looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, we could create our own scopes within that IPAM pool. And then, okay, so there's IPAM, right? So we get a pool. What's the IPAM relationship here? This is a VPC feature that you can use to automate your IP address management workflows, including assigning, tracking, troubleshooting, and auditing IP addresses. Yeah, we'd have to look at this a little more, because there's your pool, there's your scope, and then your allocation is what? An allocation is a CIDR assignment from an IPAM pool to another resource or IPAM pool. I think this would be kind of cool, actually, to build out. But for now, focus on the task, right? So let's go back over here. And what distracted me was these 2 new attributes. We don't need those attributes. So what we're going to do now is add the tag attribute. So let's flip screens here. And we're just going to say tags. And if you've watched the stream before, you know how this is going to go. We're going to say key name value is new. We'll figure out what we want to call that. Who owns this? So value here is ref owner. These are just a standard set of keys that we use on all of our stuff. How do you contact the owner? So we'll say ref owner email. And then another thing that we've tried to start getting into the habit of is tagging a project, right? Because what we found is that this is a way that we could easily tie this template back to a project in GitLab. So now we can add those tags. So I usually go something like this, tag parameters, just to separate it. Maybe makes it a little easier to read later. So we're going to say owner, the string. We won't set any default values for this. We're going to pass them all in programmatically in the CI. And then what did I say? Project. Oh, I forgot one that we always use. Ref environment. Environment. There we go. And we'll add that up here. We use the allowed values set up here. So what we can do is we can do something like this: production development. Okay. What this is going to do is it's going to limit what somebody could put into this field. So if you were building this in the CloudFormation console, you'd get a drop-down that you could select from. And we're going to do it programmatically. So when we pass those values in programmatically, it has to be either production or development. Okay. You could set a default value for any of these. We're just going to leave them empty for now. So that's our VPC. Great. Step 1 done. The other thing I'm thinking we're going to do is we're going to set some conditions. Conditions are like if statements in CloudFormation. And what I thought would be interesting here is we could say something like, is this a public VPC? Yes or no? And the idea would be that, you know, in some cases you might have a VPC that you don't want to have public access, meaning connected through an internet gateway to the internet, but you might want to deploy a VPC and attach it to your on-prem environment. So what I'm thinking is we could do this, is public. I forget the structure of the conditions, so just give me 1 second. This is interesting because what it does is it allows us to create a single template, and then based on the parameters we're passing in, we can change how the template works. So let me just find the structure for this. Yeah, okay. So we're going to say is public equals, and then we're going to refer to another environment, not an environment variable, sorry, a parameter that we're going to create. And we're just going to say ref. We're just going to mimic the same thing. So ref is public, and we'll just say true. I always forget the Boolean structure too, so we'll just say true. And then what we can do up here is we can go like this. I will set a default value for this. And actually we'll use true and false. What this is saying is we're going to set a parameter. It's a string parameter. The default value is true, and then you can either put true or false. And then down here, we're going to set is public equal, basically it is public if is public is true up here. Okay? Otherwise, that's false value, and we'll consider this to be a private VPC. And why I'm thinking about that is now that we've defined our VPC, we have to decide how we want to connect this to the outside world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically say IGW. So we need an internet gateway, and we can get the structure of the internet gateway. Just looking for here it is. The internet gateway is really simple. It's completely managed by Amazon. So all we have to do is create it. Okay. And we're going to say properties. All it needs is a set of tags. So it's going to look like this. Oh, we should populate this name field before we get too far. That's all we need to do for that. Okay. Now, the thing is, I only want to create this if we've decided that our VPC is public. Actually, let's leave it like that. So I can go down here and say condition. I can't remember if it's plural or not. Hang on 1 sec. Yeah, it's just plural. I mean, it's just that is public. So what that means is only deploy the internet gateway if is public equals true. Okay. So that's that piece. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to say, really the only thing you need to do is you need to provision the internet gateway, and then you need to associate or attach that internet gateway to your VPC. And it's a one-to-one relationship. So a single VPC can be associated to a single internet gateway. The internet gateway is managed by Amazon. Okay, scales horizontally. It horizontally scales. It's highly available. It's redundant. All that great stuff. So we don't really have to think about it other than creating it and then attaching it. And where is the attach call? So there's the internet gateway. It's amazing when you can't find this stuff. Hang on. Okay. Okay. Search for attach. Gateway attachment, peering attachment, lots of transit gateways. Wow, I cannot remember how to do this. Okay, hang on 1 sec. What we're going to do is I'm going to jump into another account for a second, and we're going to find this because my brain is completely... Am I just missing something in the template? Is that what I've done here? No, you just create it. Okay, hang on. Wow, I haven't written one of these in so long because we just have a good reference template that we use all the time. It's amazing how fast you forget this stuff. Bear with me a sec. Oh, they call it a VPC Gateway Attachment. Okay. All right. I wasn't looking for that at all. So we're going to say type AWS VPC2 VPC Gateway Attachment. And then we'll say properties. This, we're going to actually add something else here. We're going to say depends on the internet gateway. In the internet gateway, really, we could build this out a bit. It depends on, if we decide to deploy it. The VPC doesn't need to be there. In this case, it does. Because what we're going to do here is we're going to say properties internet gateway ID is ref IGW. And then we're going to say the VPC ID is ref VPC. So this is where we create the internet gateway, and this is how we attach the internet gateway or associate the internet gateway to the VPC. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start creating a few outputs here, just so we don't end up with a ton of outputs to create at the end. So for the time being, what I want to do is just create something for our VPC. So we're going to say VPC 0 ID, and we're just going to say value equals VPC 0, and we'll give it a name. We're going to use an intrinsic function for this to set it up. So what this does is it substitutes in, this is like it's called a pseudo parameter. So when I run this, it's going to take whatever stack name we give it, input it into here. It's going to substitute this pseudo parameter. Okay. That's actually how we're going to do this too. So let's set these up. We're going to say sub, and then we're going to go AWS stack name, and we'll just call this, we'll pass in a couple things to demonstrate how this works. So what this is going to do is substitute the stack name, put the environment name in, and then VPC. And we'll do the same thing down here, and we'll just change this to IGW. Let's actually test this. Let's not go too far. Make sure that, this is going to be a relatively large template, so this way we can make sure that it's working. To do that, we're going to go back here, and we're going to set up what we need. You can see I've got a couple values up here, so I can just do this. Parameter overrides. So this is setting up those parameters. We're going to say owner. Actually, we can copy this. So that's the easy part. And then just to keep it easy to read, we're going to do a new line. And then we have to think about the other things that we passed in. So we need our CIDR block. And we decided 1098.0.0/16. We need this value, which we're going to say is true. I think that's it. We've got these all covered already. So all we're going to do now is we're just going to say let's submit this and see what happens. Right, so if we submit that, go back over here. I've got our project all set up. Let's see what happens. All right, so I'm not surprised. We've got an error. So it failed the validation. It should give us something here to tell us what we did wrong. Every condition must be a string. What did I do wrong? Oops. Do that. Oh. I just needed that. Let's see if that did the trick. Well, it didn't fail by the time we loaded the page. Well, there we go. All right, I've messed something up here. Let's do this instead. I'll find the true false things. Get me every once in a while. Do I need this? Let's just try this. Yeah. And down here, we'll just say yes. I lost my pipeline screen here. Huh. I always find the first commit is the worst. Conditions must be a string. What have I done wrong here? Okay, so is public, type string, default yes, allowed values, yes or no. And then we've got equals ref is public, yes. Okay. And then I wonder if it's not liking this. Oh, there we go. Okay, we made it a little further. Unresolved resource dependency, VPC. So we've just got a typo in our setup here. Oh, see what I did? I put VPC instead of VPC 0. Let's just check to see if there's any more of those. I'm just looking for any refs that maybe refer to that. I think that was the only one. There we go. Okay, validation passed. Let's see if our deploy works. Did not. Is public must be one of allowed values. Ah, yeah. Oh, I think I know what I did. No, I set is public to true. Oh, yeah, sorry. It's supposed to be yes. I changed that, didn't I? Hoping by now we got it. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our change set, and there's our stack name, CF and Wednesday VPC. So if we go over here, we see our change set. These are the first basic components, the VPC, the internet gateway, and attach the internet gateway. So as long as I don't have any other typos in here, this should go pretty quickly. Okay, so there's the VPC, there's the internet gateway. Now we're just attaching the internet gateway. Yep, there's our VPC. I don't like the name since I put VPC in 2 spots. So our stack is CFN Wednesday VPC. Oh, I see what I've done. Okay. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's our VPC. You can see we've got our CIDRs set up now. There's our 16. So what we can do now is create the subnets that we need. Okay. So let's get rid of our search. We'll just shrink these down so that's a little smaller. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say so I just need to get the format for this. Now, we only want to deploy the public subnets if this is actually public. So we'll say condition is public. Now we can go like this, availability zone. To do, we'll come back to that one in a second. I'll tell you why in a sec. Then we've got our CIDR block. So in this case, we're just going to say ref public subnet 0 CIDR. You just flip back and show you this. It looks like there's a few new things here too. Okay. Assign IPv6 address on creation. There's availability zone. We'll fill one of those in later. We got our CIDR block. See this enable DNS 64? Let's see what that is. This indicates whether DNS queries made to Amazon provided DNS resolver in this subnet should return synthetic addresses for, yeah, we're not going to worry about that. We don't need our CIDR block, or we don't need a v6 CIDR block. We don't need v6 native. This is something we do want to put in. So we don't want to map public IP addresses to any resources, EC2 instances, that are launched into a public subnet by default. We want to make sure that who's ever deploying something in there understands what they're doing, rather than just giving everything an IP address, a public IP. So we're going to do this. False. Okay. You can use an outpost ARN. We're not going to do outposts. There's another, it looks like another new option in here. Let's flip back. See this one here? Private DNS name options on launch. Again, I don't think we need that, right? These setups. So we'll leave that alone. We do need to associate this to a VPC, so we can do this. I'm going to add a depends on statement. Just, you know, if you're building this from scratch this way, it's going to put everything in the right order. And then we need to tag it. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to grab that. And obviously we're going to change this. So we're going to say, you see how we have public subnet 0? I always forget how it puts these together. So let's just do public subnet. And we actually can put in something. Figure that out, because what I need to do is I don't want to hard code the availability zones. I want those to come up dynamically. And I just want to see which one we want to use here. Okay. Okay, so we're going to use an intrinsic function for this, and let me show you what we're going to do. So we can use this here. And what this is going to do is we'll be able to dynamically get the AZ values. So this would be 0, 1, 2, and 3. And then we can refer to them. Okay. The only interesting thing that we could do here is if you go back to your EC2 console and you go to the dashboard, and this might be something that is important for you. See this zone link here? If you go to zones, what this is doing is it's telling us the AZ mapping. So 1A maps to this zone, 1B maps to this zone. Why is this important? Because let's say you wanted to deploy workspaces here, okay? Even though workspaces are supported, like the documentation will say workspaces is supported in this region, you also have to make sure that you understand the, what do they call them? The AZ IDs. So this matches to over here. Where is it? I lost it. This. See these right here? So if you are planning on putting workspaces, you would want to make sure that you understand these maps. And these zones won't be the same for every account, right? They move them around. So I want to, let's say you wanted to, let's just think about this. If you wanted to potentially put workspaces in here, then I need to make sure that I'm using AZ IDs that match AZ1 and AZ2. And then I can go back over here and I can look at this. So AZ1, AZ2. So that actually is okay for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it like this. We go over here to zone ID. We're going to do this. Actually, we want to use zone, not availability zone ID. Let me have a look at something else here. Okay, so the intrinsic function, let me flip back the screen. The intrinsic function getAZ returns an array that lists availability zones. So the zones, not the zone IDs. Okay, all right, so we're on the right path. So if we go back over here, we want to do this. We want to turn that to zone. I can't remember if it's plural or not. Yeah, it's just zone. Okay. And then we're going to use the select, which is another intrinsic function. So this was going to give us the ability to select something from this array. And in our case, we want to say the first entry in the array, and we're going to get AZs. And that's going to pull the current region in. Okay. And then if we wanted to, we could do the same thing down here. And we could take this same select code, this select operation, and put it right in there. Okay. I think that will work inside a sub. I don't know, it looks a little weird. Sometimes I would do a join statement here instead of a sub, but I want to try that and see how it works. Okay. And let's just, we'll keep it simple again, and we're just going to create our two public subnets. This becomes there, and we want to make sure this is in a different AZ, right? Because that's the whole point here. We're going to build this across multiple AZs. And then I need to make sure that I've got these up here. Go like this. And then I'm interested to see what this does. That might not work with the select inside there, but we'll know quickly. And then what we have to do is we have to go back over here and say, I already forget what we called those. That. And we have that in our little README file. So that's what we want to use for public 1. Or not public, yeah, public 1, and then public 2 is that. Okay, so let's do that. We'll know pretty quickly if the sub lets us do that select thing. It looks weird to me, so I'm not sure if it's going to work or not. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I bet you that's, oh no, unresolved dependencies. Did I miss again? Oh, sorry, I put IDs. It's supposed to be VPC 0. So I'll just fix that quickly. Let's see what that does. Okay, well, the validation worked. Parameters, public subnet 0 CIDR, public subnet CIDR 1 has to have values. What did I do wrong? Oh, yeah, I put them up here, but we didn't pass them in. That's not going to do what we want, right? Ooh, it also doesn't look like. Okay. Oh, I see what's happened here. Let's do this. All right. Oh, I went the wrong way there. Sorry, I wasn't showing you what I was typing. I don't know if I like this new setup. There's too many things to click here. Oh, we got another failure. Let's see. Maybe this is the select statement. Ugh. Oh. Okay. I won't bother showing you what I messed up there. I did that weird, I don't know if you saw it, I did a weird cut and paste. And yeah, I had an empty line. Okay, that looks like it worked. All right, so let's go here. I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go to CloudFormation. And what we should now have is a change set. There's our change set, and it will say, you want to add 2 public subnets. Let's see if that weird sub works. And if it does work, what the heck is it going to call stuff? There we go. Availability zone is not permitted. That's not the error that I thought we would get. Okay, so it doesn't like something else that we've got in here. See this right here, property availability zone. Did I just type that wrong? Oh yeah, it's just a spelling mistake. There we go. Right, so if we go back over here now, just make sure our pipeline runs. See this cleanup in progress? That means that our pipeline probably failed. Yeah, because we've got CloudFormation now stuck in cleanup in progress mode. Let's see if this finishes up. Didn't make as much progress as I wanted tonight. I think we'll call it here in a few minutes, but I want to see if we can get this cleaned up and at least get the couple public subnets deployed. This will happen sometimes. Haven't seen it in a while, though. Okay, so let's do an end run around this, and we're just going to create. We're going to just change the stack name for the time being. I just want to see if we can figure out any bugs. Those two subnets to deploy. I'm not quite sure why. Oh, it's so typical. Patience. So what we should see, there's my impatient stack, and we're just going to delete that. And then what we should see happen here is a change set come to life now that the rollback's done. There it is. Okay. Patience is a virtue, they say. There we go. There's our public subnets again. Okay, well, I thought for sure if that weird format was not going to go. There we go. Okay. I don't know what the names are going to be here. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's not what I wanted. So instead, what we're going to do, which makes sense, right? Because we're actually saying we're trying to make a string off of that, which isn't going to work. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to change this in the subnet definitions. We'll just do that for now. And we're going to use a join statement instead. Okay, so the first thing is you need the delimiter for your join statement. And then we can go like this. We still want to pass that in. And then all we do is we just say so yeah, those names aren't too bad actually. So if we take this and then put that here, so we're just changing the name, so that should be okay. While we're here, why don't we do this? Because we want 2 public, 2 private. So we'll change this to private subnet 0. In this case, we want to deploy this subnet every time. We're going to change this to private subnet 0 CIDR. I almost think that I would prefer to change this to private. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to tell which subnets are which. So this is a public subnet. This is also a public subnet. And you can see what I did here, cut and pasting, right? So I need to change that to 1. We could do the same thing here. Let's go to 1. This can stay, that's going to go like that. Okay. Actually, let's just do the same thing. Protected subnet 0 CIDR. And then I'm going to go over here, and we got to add in all these ranges. So we're going to say private subnet 0 CIDR. Let's do this. We'll just keep these all in the same lines. Maybe a little easier to read. Now, I guess it just. Oh, look, there we go. I'll pass all those in and we can just cut and paste from here. So here's private 1. Then here's our protected range. Okay. Oh, I know exactly what I did. I don't know why this happens, but somewhere here I'm going to have a tab problem from too many cut and pastes. Actually, it looks pretty good. Invalid template resource property. Protected subnet 1. Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, I didn't change my screen again. See here? When I cut and pasted, this one ends up in. It's got to come back like that. Ooh, that failed immediately. Didn't get past validation this time. Unresolved dependencies. Public. All right. What did I do wrong here? Oh, yeah, see it. Remember I changed these? I left the ref statement in. Ref public doesn't exist. Check the other one. Okay, I only did it on the one. These should all be okay. All right, and then here's our deploy. Okay, that's a good sign. Doesn't mean that it'll deploy, but that's a good sign. So let's jump back over to, oh, we're already there. Okay, so we got our change set. What we're doing here is we're modifying the name, so the tag value, that's it, right? So that's not going to replace anything. And then we've got our private and protected subnets. So let's see what happens here. That should be it, I think. Perfect. Okay, so now if we go back over here, refresh, let's see if we can delete this VPC. Will it let me? No, there's still too many things. These are the little demo I was doing. So if I go back over here, ignoring this name triggering my OCD, if we go back, it ends in 58, and then we can just filter here. That's not too bad. Public, protected, private, and we've got all our ranges set up and our available IPs. Remember here that you will lose 5 IP addresses, right, in every subnet, because you've got the broadcast address, the network, or I guess the network address, the broadcast address, and then Amazon reserves 3 others. That's 5 IP addresses. So there we go. We've got our simple VPC partially set up. I think we'll call it here for tonight, and we'll come back next Wednesday and complete this project. Okay, for now, take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week.